This chart shows every WNBA MVP in the stats they averaged that season, ranking them based on the top player in each statistical category. As you look at all these names, you will notice that not a single player ranks in the top 3 of any of these categories. That is until we add in A'ja Wilson's current season, which would rank her top 3 in multiple statistical categories. A'ja Wilson is putting on the best MVP season we have ever seen in the WNBA. This season is so good that WNBA purists believe that she should become the second unanimous MVP in league history. This is something that should be celebrated and plastered across all sports media, but it's not. In fact, if you were to tune into sports media and would see who they talked about for the WNBA MVP, they would say that this record-breaking season by A'ja Wilson is second to a rookie.
All of a sudden, Caitlin Clark is starting to push A'ja Wilson for MVP of this league, and I am not exaggerating. She is starting to push A'ja as the best player in the league.
Now, I'm not here to take anything away from Caitlin Clark. I absolutely love Caitlin Clark. I think she's a beast. I think she deserves all the flowers she gets, and she has that Fever team cooking right now. They're playing great basketball. But it's disrespectful to put Caitlin Clark in the same conversation as A'ja Wilson. And once again, it's not to take anything away from Caitlin Clark. In fact, I think it's disrespectful to put any other WNBA player in A'ja Wilson in the same conversation. The distance between A'ja Wilson and the rest of WNBA is larger than the Grand Canyon. She is arguably the greatest WNBA player ever. Let me just list you some of her accolades. 2-time WNBA champion, 2-time WNBA MVP, 1-time WNBA Finals MVP, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time All-WNBA First Team, 5 All-Star appearances, a Rookie of the Year, and many other awards. And her team, the Las Vegas Aces, are coming off back-to-back WNBA championships and still had fewer televised games than the worst team in the league the previous year. So it raises the question, how is a player this good and dominant not the face of the WNBA? Well, the disrespect for A'ja Wilson is nothing new. Last year, A'ja led her team to back-to-back championships, but finished third in the MVP race, losing to Breanna Stewart in the New York Liberty. Look, Stewie deserves her flowers. She had an absolute phenomenal year. And honestly, there is an argument to be made that she had a better year than A'ja Wilson and deserved that MVP. But she's not multiple players better than A'ja Wilson was that year. I mean, if we just compare their numbers, they're practically the same. Stewie averaged 23 points and 9.3 rebounds, and A'ja averaged 22.8 points and 9.5 rebounds. So saying that Stewie was better than A'ja this season is not far-fetched. What is far-fetched is the fact that A'ja finished third. But if you continue to dig deeper into this season, you understand just how deep this A'ja Wilson disrespect really was. The Aces head coach Becky Hammon criticized the voters for penalizing A'ja for fewer minutes. See, the Aces were historically great last year. They had the highest net rating in WNBA history. They outscored teams by 19.1 points per 100 possessions, which is the second highest average margin per victory in WNBA history. Most of the games were over by halftime, and A'ja was usually on the bench most of the fourth quarter. So after having a year like this and losing the WNBA MVP award, it was easy to say that A'ja was motivated coming into the next season. And one of the vote getters even had the nerve to give her 4th place in the MVP race. I feel like it was kind of a slap in the face to me. First or second, I could deal with that. But 4th was ridiculous. That was definitely a chip on my shoulder that I focused on in the offseason while getting better. And that chip on her shoulder that she's speaking about has led to one of the greatest seasons in WNBA history. Actually, scratch that. The greatest season in WNBA history. Let me just read you some recent games. 41 points, 17 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block. 30 points, 14 rebounds, 2 steals, 3 blocks. And 42 points, 6 rebounds, 1 steal, and 3 blocks. This is just some of the games on her laundry list of records that she has set this season. A'ja is averaging 27.2 points this year, which is the most points in WNBA history. She became the first WNBA player to average 25 points and 15 rebounds over a 5-game span. She could end up with the single season rebound record, and she just became the single season scoring leader in WNBA history. And doing all this while being extremely efficient and without having a high volume of 3-point shots. She's shooting over 50% from the field, 40% from 3, and 87% from the free throw line. For reference, no other player averaging over 19 points is shooting anything better than 49% on the field. So once again, the gap between A'ja Wilson and the rest of WNBA is larger than their Grand Canyon. And I know there's things larger than the Grand Canyon, but like I live in Arizona, so we're going with the Grand Canyon. Like, I'm serious. A'ja Wilson is on Neptune while the rest of the WNBA is on Earth. She gets it done on both sides of the court and literally from anywhere. However, her most dominant spot on the court is in the high post. The Aces love to run a screen and roll with A'ja with one of their elite guards. So here we are in this play. We see her running it with Kelsey Plum. Now, when they run this play, A'ja usually has a variety of options out of the high post. This time she decides to shoot the mid-range jump shot. Now this shot is absolutely money for her and she can get it all game, honestly. This play again, she's in the high post, but she uses a jab step to create enough space, and right there again is her mid-range jumper. But what makes her so deadly is her ability to score in multiple ways. This next play, she decides not to settle for the jumper, but instead take Aaliyah Boston off the dribble and finish with this layup. The thing that makes A'ja difficult is that you don't really have a defender that can guard her. If you put someone like Aaliyah on her, she can sometimes just overpower her or shoot over top of her. But if you put a taller, slower defender on her, it happens like this play right here, where she takes the Sparks defender right off the dribble and blows right by her for a layup. We know A'ja loves that fadeaway, and here it is again. She's catching it and immediately she goes right into that fadeaway jump shot. Okay, one more. Instead of this time going for the face up, she goes into the post, and we know how deadly she is when she can catch and go straight into that fadeaway jump shot. Now, before we stop looking at her offensive game, we have to talk about one more thing, which is her three-point shooting. For most of A'ja's career, she was not really a deadly three-point shooter, and she's still not a crazy three-point shooter, but it's something that she's added to her game this year, and it's just making her that much closer to becoming a 3-level scorer. Now, before we continue, I have a confession to make. I'm a new WNBA fan. Yep, I might have watched the occasional game, the Maya Moore, the Candace Parkers, like, I watched the occasional game, but to be completely honest with you, I started watching WNBA for Caitlin Clark. Yeah, I'm a Caitlin Clark bandwagon fan, and Angel Reese, and Cameron Brink. Like, I came from the college game. I'm a bandwagon, okay? So when I decided to begin researching on this A'ja Wilson video, I knew A'ja Wilson was good. I already knew that before. Like I said, I watched my occasional games. I knew what was going on, but I didn't really like watch it and deep dive into it the way I'm deep diving into it now. But I knew A'ja Wilson was good. I knew she was a bucket. I knew she had the mid-range game. All that we just talked about earlier, like all that, like didn't surprise me. I didn't know how truly gifted this woman was on the defensive end. I mean, for someone to be so skilled offensively and then to be a menace on the defensive end of the court, it's usually unheard of. She right now is on pace to win not her second, but third Defensive Player of the Year award in a row. Okay, let's look at some plays here. On this play, we see Angel Reese catch the ball against A'ja, and she tries to make a quick little spin move, and A'ja just blows it up and destroys anything A'ja wants to do and comes away with that block. And then on this next play, you see A'ja playing help side and then perfectly comes up with this block to help her teammate out. Now, if you've seen any of my videos, you know I love to talk about defenders and just how much space they can take up on the defensive end. This is exactly what A'ja Wilson does on this shot. On this play, we see her in the pick and roll. If we stop right here, we can see A'ja with the ability to hedge and help on the ball handler and still be connected to her person. And as soon as the woman makes her decision to pull up for the little jumper, A'ja times it perfectly and destroys this shot. Now, obviously defense is more than just shot blocking, so let's transition to another part of her game. The entry pass is the hardest pass in basketball, and trust me, you can literally ask any guard, they will tell you the same thing. What makes it so difficult is that you not only have to pass it by your defender, but you also have to make sure that you get it by the defender that is guarding your man. So when you have someone like A'ja Wilson back there who does things like this, you're probably gonna have a long night. I mean, this play is absolutely beautiful. She switched not only from one player, but two, and then came away with a steal. Here we just have another example of A'ja just absolutely blowing up this entry pass. And one more time to show you her versatility, A'ja plays this pick and roll perfectly and comes up with the steal. Now, I've showed you the chart. I'm talking about all the records she's broken this season. We've seen all the plays. I think at this moment, you can paint a picture of just how great A'ja Wilson really is. And that really was my goal. But the reality for A'ja and the WNBA for most of its history is that no one cares. You could be the best player in the WNBA, and not a single soul would care. The WNBA has been the laughingstock of sports since its conception. Like I said, I'm a diehard basketball fan, and I watch a lot of basketball. I really didn't care about the WNBA before the season. And honestly, it's just the truth of the WNBA. And you can say whatever you want to say about me, I'm just being honest with you. And this is how a lot of people felt about this league. I mean, the fact is, they don't dunk the basketball, and it 100% hurts the league. There's almost something special and therapeutic about watching a highlight slam dunk. Seeing someone just overpower their man and poster him. A fast break and you're getting ready, you're excited, you pull your camera out and there's a windmill by Anthony Edwards. The WNBA doesn't have that. And I get what a lot of you WNBA peers are going to say. Basketball is more than dunking. And I agree, it's a lot more than dunking. There's a beautiful part of the WNBA, and I'm not saying it's not. But I'm saying from the lens of a very casual fan, even more casual than I am with the WNBA now, no dunks is boring. To add on to it, the league really had nothing to offer basketball fans that they couldn't get from college basketball or the NBA. The average viewership for the league was 300,000 per game before this season. That's just not enough eyeballs on a league for a player like A'ja Wilson to get the recognition she deserves. Despite the stars they've had from Lisa Leslie to Sue Bird, the league needed Caitlin Clark, a player whose game was so electric that viewers actually cared to watch the WNBA. Which brings us to A'ja Wilson. Before Caitlin, the league could not sell A'ja. Now, when this happens, it's usually because a player has a boring personality. For instance, a lot of people say that the NBA cannot sell Nikola Jokic because his personality and his unwillingness to really be in the media. But that was never the case with A'ja. A'ja has a great personality. Actually, she has one of the best personalities in the WNBA if you follow her on social media or keep up with anything she does. She has everything you really want. She has a presence in the media, she talks trash on the court, she's a great interviewer, but yet she wasn't marketable. This has caused a lot of turmoil in the WNBA community. People just don't understand why A'ja Wilson is not as marketable as Caitlin Clark. I mean, earlier this year, we had a whole race war in the WNBA because Nike announced that Caitlin Clark was going to get her own signature shoe, making her one of 3 players in the WNBA to have her own shoe. And the other 2 happened to be white. Now, A'ja did announce shortly after that she and Nike were dropping a signature shoe in her name. But the delay in the prolonging of her getting the shoe shined a light on how the advertisement world felt about A'ja Wilson. The harsh reality is, A'ja Wilson is Tim Duncan. Let me explain. Tim Duncan is regarded as the boringest NBA superstar ever. In addition to his lack of personality off the court, his game was very dull. It consisted of mid-range bank shots and turnaround jumpers. Now, you could argue A'ja's game is a little bit more flashy than Tim's, and I would probably agree. She's more so an Anthony Davis. But that still proves my point. Anthony Davis is boring as well when you take away his poster dunks. And this is coming from a Laker fan. Like, if you take away the monster dunks that AD does, like, you have monster blocks. Those are entertaining. I ain't gonna lie to you, but the rest of this game is just what? Mid-range pull-ups, an occasional 3. We not talking no dunks. That's pretty much it. He ain't really doing nothing crazy. Both Tim and AD play very simple games that consist of mid-range jump shots and great defense. Much like A'ja Wilson. The difference is that they play in a league that is so big, that's so marketable, that has such a big fan base that they can afford to market a boring player because of how many people tune into the NBA. Compared to the WNBA, where they are literally fighting for viewership, they cannot afford to waste marketing time, hours, and dollars on a player who has a boring game. I mean, let's just look at this Reddit comment on the WNBA subreddit. A'ja is phenomenal, but her game doesn't keep me watching. I get bored. I understand that is just one person, but this is a common thing that a lot of WNBA fans honestly feel, and they just might be too afraid to say it. If your own league's fans are saying this, how in the world can you possibly sell her as the face of your league? It's harsh, but it's the truth. A player like A'ja deserves as much, or if not more attention than Caitlin Clark deserves, but her style of play does not capture fans as much as Caitlin's will. And that's not a knock on A'ja, it's just really the reality of the situation. Let's put it this way. If you have a failing business and you need to sell a product, if you have one product that is a little boring, but it works very well, it's great, the best product out. But you have one that's really good, not as great as that one, but it's still really good. But it's way more marketable, it's way more fun. People love to come in and talk about it. Which one are you going to market to get your business back up? This one is your bread and butter, it's gonna work all the time. But you need this flashy one. It's one that everyone wants to talk about to boost your failing business off the ground. And I ain't really like, I don't own no products or anything. That was kind of a yap right there, but you get what I'm saying. The WNBA is a failing league that needs viewership. They cannot afford to waste marketing efforts on a player whose best skill is her ability to defend and shoot mid-range shots. Defense wins games. Offense sells tickets. And if we're being honest here, I probably wouldn't even be making this video over A'ja Wilson's phenomenal season if it wasn't for Caitlin Clark's fiery playstyle that makes me want to watch more WNBA basketball. And once again, we can go back to Reddit, and this is what a Redditor said on their subreddit in a post. The post was titled, "Had not once heard of A'ja Wilson and the Aces' success until Kate Martin, a former college teammate of Caitlin Clark, got drafted, which is unbelievable to me now. I am both feeling hopeful, excited, and in disbelief after getting back into the WNBA in 2024. I started following the Aces after Kate Martin got drafted because I liked her style of play in college and it was a cool story. The Aces have a great marketing and social media team. Their content is amazing. They have great personalities, and I have to follow the Aces themselves to get any of this content or learn anything about the team." The WNBA did a cool mini series on the Aces, but I never heard of it until I bought League Pass. I just think it's wild that before Martin got drafted, I had zero knowledge of who A'ja Wilson even was. Of course, Caitlin is cool, but like what? A'ja is a baller, but bigger and much more outgoing personality, it seems? See what they said there? We're continuing reading. A bigger personality than Caitlin and a better player. Not saying one is better to market. I'm just shocked. I not once in the last 4 years knew about her until I subscribed to the Aces social media. My disbelief in this is I am a hardcore NBA fan. I consume a lot of basketball related content, podcasts, watch games, etc. I have been also pretty big fan of WNBA women's hoops the last 2 years. It is wild to me that WNBA has been so excluded from the larger sports media sphere with these storylines and incredible players. I really hope that starts to change this year even more than it already has. Now, that first comment I showed you earlier is actually the top comment on this post. This is the reality of a lot of WNBA fans. Kate Martin, a player who played on Caitlin Clark's college team, is currently selling more jerseys in the WNBA than her own two-time MVP teammate, A'ja Wilson. Mind you, Kate Martin plays around 8 minutes a game. But because Kate Martin played with Caitlin Clark and they liked Kate Martin, they now are fans of A'ja Wilson. It just shows you how undermarketed A'ja Wilson has been her entire career. She is the best player in the WNBA. I mean, if you want to give it a silver lining, there are people that are now, like me, bringing more attention to A'ja because of Caitlin and Kate Martin and Angel Reese and Cameron Brink and all these others. Like, it's a natural trickle-down effect of a very entertaining class. But it also just shows you that A'ja was really, really disrespected. A'ja Wilson is the best player in the WNBA. And if anyone thinks differently, they don't watch the WNBA. It's not like the NBA where you can probably argue 5 players are the best player in the league, bro. Like, the NBA is so wide open right now. In the WNBA, there's no dispute. The best player in the WNBA, her name is A'ja Wilson, and she deserves her flowers. I don't care if you're a diehard WNBA fan or a new fan because of this rookie class. You must acknowledge that A'ja Wilson is the best in the league and is already in the conversation of greatest player ever. Just the sad reality is most of the world doesn't care. Anyways, that is all for the video today, guys. Honestly, I had a lot of fun diving deep into A'ja Wilson. I knew she was good before I started the video. This video gave me a way new appreciation for A'ja Wilson and just how good she really is. And I hope that this made someone go tune into some Aces game or go watch WNBA. Like, look, I might have been an ignorant fan. I think a lot of us were ignorant to WNBA. But it's all about growth and learning as a person. All right? Like, we can grow and learn as people. And that's what I think I've done. Anyways, hope you guys liked the video. If you did, leave it a like, comment a player you guys want me to break down, and of course, subscribe. And as always, hope you guys have a beautiful, blessed day, and God bless.